Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nick unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
G'day, listeners. Welcome to the podcast. Hang on, I can hear... That was my worst helicopter impression ever, Coxie.
I thought it was fantastic.
Our guest has just chop it in for today's episode, which will mean nothing to you listening to this podcast episode until you get past our intro and have a listen to another Real Tradie Guys episode with Oliver Fullerton from Select Maintenance, who, just a disclaimer here, he does not own a helicopter and he doesn't charge accordingly. It's just become a bit of a joke, Coxie.
It's very much, it's been a trade desk thing. We have drinks on a Friday afternoon and it started as a friendly rivalry between Mitch, g'day Mitch if you're listening, and Ollie, g'day Ollie.
A painter and a maintenance guy.
Yeah, they're battling for who's got the biggest helicopter, and doesn't Mitch have a gold-plated garage now?
Yeah. He uses gold paint to paint the garage floor, I think.
That's what it is. So
which
yes,
is where he parks the Ferrari, and it's gotten a bit ridiculous, actually.
Well, it's good fun. If you're not a member of the trade desk, you know how to find us, and we have a lot of fun on our Friday afternoon drinks.
Yes. Now, we love our Real Tradie episodes, Real Tradie Guys, Real Tradie Wives. They're not all wives, though. But anyway, we need some more ladies. If you're a tradie wife or a tradie lady, either or both at the same time, hit us up. We'd love to hear from you, because there's lots of tradie wives sort of lurking in the shadows out there in Tradies in Business land that don't necessarily think they have anything to share, don't think that anyone else is having the same issues or stresses as them, and that is so not true. I know you know this, Nicole,
Yes.
but just from a guy's perspective, I see this with our members and our clients, and I would love to hear from some more tradie wives. And look, it's not scary getting on the podcast. You don't have to be a professional speaker or anything like that. We're reasonably gentle, not like our coaching sessions. But yeah, we'd love to hear from some tradie wives and have you on the show and just get you to share your story, even if that's about how the heck you've managed to balance raising 5 kids with supporting your hubby in his business and doing the book work and hating life because you actually wanted to be a ballet dancer or something. So yeah, share your story with us. But today is all about Ollie. It's a real tradie guy, and it's a bit blokey, but interesting chat with Ollie today, Coxie.
It was an interesting chat, and it kind of went to a few places that I didn't think it was going to go to. We've spoken about this on the podcast before. You get a bit of a mental image, I suppose, of where you think an episode might go, particularly if you have some background with the person you're speaking with, which we do with Ollie. And it didn't go anywhere where I thought it was going to go. It was really interesting. So if you have seen Ollie lurking about in one of our groups, you'll really enjoy this episode. I think you'll be surprised by some of the things you hear.
Yeah, and I love how he's, the catchphrase these days is pivot.
Yes.
I think Ollie's been pretty good at the pivot over his lifetime. So yeah, great chat with Ollie, and we hope you enjoy another Real Tradie Guys episode.
Enjoy the show.
So we're joined by Mr. Oliver Fullerton, take 2, just so the listeners know that we're having a few issues this morning. The list has grown longer, so we've had phone calls about allergies, electricians with flat batteries, devices not working, microphones not talking to the computer. This is going to be a rocking episode, listeners. I can feel it.
Does anybody know somebody that's good at maintenance? We could get a few of these issues fixed.
Oh, Ollie's come in with the Chuck Norris.
He's pulled a TIB Chucky Norris segue and a plug for his business in the process, being a marketing extraordinaire that he is.
Hey?
Now, you would think if he was really good at maintenance, we wouldn't be having these problems in the first place.
Yeah.
Snap, snap.
If you can't fix it with a hammer, it can't be fixed. Seriously.
So true.
That's right. There's only one tool required. And that is Oliver at Select Maintenance.
Yeah.
Give him a call for all your maintenance needs. All right, so Ollie, you're on sunny Gold Coast, mate. You've got a few things going on currently, and I suspect you've had a few things going on just generally in life, mate. This is a real tradie story, a Real Tradie Guys episode. Why don't you tell us about Ollie, the man, the legend, the real man? Go.
The champion.
Right, what do you want to know? Quick background?
So it all started with your mum.
Okay, started with my mum and probably went downhill from there. Now, honestly, left school end of year 10, didn't want to go any further, as a lot of young blokes don't. Wanted a trade, wanted to be a mechanic. Tried that, couldn't find an apprenticeship as a mechanic. So just before I was heading back to school for year 11, I got offered a apprenticeship painting cars in a panel shop. So I took it, knew nothing about the job, hadn't even entered my head, but took it, did it. So I did that for 10 years and then got offered, moved to Queensland. So I'm originally from the Blue Mountains, west of Sydney.
Nice.
Moved to Queensland and then stayed in that trade for a little while. Before I got offered a position doing some handyman work, and same deal, a little bit over the trade of painting cars. It's sort of heading south a little bit, hard work. So yeah, thought, try something different. Did that for about 12 months and then changed employers and stayed in the construction industry. And then that employer offered me an adult apprenticeship. So I did that and become a carpenter, and here I am now with my own maintenance sort of business. So that's sort of what that business sort of specialised in, was carpentry and maintenance. So I sort of got put on to doing a lot of the little jobs, or Ollie jobs as they used to call it back then at that place. And so it's sort of become my little specialty, that sort of stuff. So when I decided that it was time to move on and give my own thing a try, that's what I sort of did. So hence Select Maintenance was born, and that's what we do. Just little odd jobs, handyman work, and no real, like, a big job for us is, a $5,000 sort of price bracket job. That's a big job. So yeah.
And you've got a team member working with you as well, Ollie?
We have 2 staff.
There you go.
So we've got so last year I decided it was time to sort of stop being the sole operator, the sole everything in the business. And if you're going to grow a business, that you really needed help to do it. So I put on a handyman last year, and then we ran into a heap of work. So 2 months after I put him on, I put on another carpenter. And both of those guys are still with me now. So
I like that. I ran into a heap of work. It's kind of like, it perpetuates this myth that business is a bunch of luck.
Yeah, it does, but it's not real. I mean, it was, it was all existing client work, and it just happened to be at the right time that he gave me a heap of work that I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself, in the time frame that I needed staff regardless. So it was, it was a good time, and sort of just kicked me into gear a bit.
I like it.
Yeah.
I love the line I heard about this recently, that luck is the confluence or intersection of preparation and opportunity. And I see a lot of people like you, Ollie, that either knowingly or accidentally perhaps have prepared themselves for when an opportunity goes past and they're actually able to grab it, and that makes for a lot of lucky people in the world. So would you say that's happened for you at all, mate?
Yeah, I don't believe in luck really too much. I think everyone makes their own. Once upon a time, I used to believe in luck, and you'd always think, oh, that person's lucky, this person's lucky, whatever. But yeah, you learn that life's about making your own luck.
Absolutely, mate.
Yeah, there's no luck. You've just got to, if you want something, you just got to go and get it. Simple as that.
How did you find, so just going back to, you're talking about, I guess, your entry into the trades, not being able to get an apprenticeship. How was that for you?
When I left, back at the school days, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was hard work. I mean, that was, they say it's hard now to get an apprenticeship, but, back in those days, you pretty much had to get an indentured apprenticeship for it to really mean anything. And I think apprenticeships now, they're not what they used to be anymore. With these sort of labour hire schools, places and stuff like that, they're sort of, they have all these apprentices and they swap them around between employers and stuff like that. And I just don't, the apprentice isn't getting what you used to get out of an indentured. Like an indentured apprenticeship was a real commitment between yourself and the employer, for both of you. But for me, it was hard, like I just, all through high school, all I wanted to do was be a mechanic. And sort of that was my dream, to be a mechanic. And I didn't care whether it was a diesel mechanic, automotive mechanic, working on trucks, cars, buses, forklifts. I didn't really care. I just wanted to work on vehicles. And so for all of the last year of high school, I was just applying for any apprenticeship that I saw, whether it was the little mechanic shop or a, council apprenticeship or whatever, like everything I saw didn't have to be near home, because I was in the upper end of the Blue Mountains. So I was miles from, back in those days, miles from everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it was hard work. And then, of course, my parents, I'm the eldest of three. So, you get the rules laid out for you being the eldest. It's,
yeah. And you should know better anyway, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it was, you weren't going to leave school unless you had an apprenticeship. Simple as that. You had to have an apprenticeship or back to year 11 and 12. So my main goal was just getting an apprenticeship. And I was literally a week out of going back to school when my mate's girlfriend's neighbour, sort of thing, said, I heard you're looking for an apprenticeship. And he was the leading panel beater at this place. And he said, I heard you're looking for an apprenticeship. We've got one going. I went, what is it? And he's like, painting cars, spray painter. And I went, never thought about that. And he said, well, if you want it, come down to the workshop on Monday morning.
It's just the way things were done, isn't it? If you want it, turn up here. Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I walked into that place on the Monday morning, 8 o'clock, walked in the front door, just walked straight into the workshop and found him. And he looked at me and went, I'm glad you're here. He pointed out the back and he said, go and see that guy out there, Troy's his name, and ask him if he's got anything you can do. And that was it. I worked for a week there before I ever met the boss.
Dead set.
Dead set. I didn't even meet the boss. I was there for a week before I'd even met the boss. And it was owned by two brothers back then. And I spent a week in that workshop before I even met them. And then one of them just come down, the following Monday morning with some paperwork and said, here, sign here. That was it. That was my indentureship.
Wow.
So, and then, a month later, I'm down at college, starting doing me one day a week, I think it was back then.
And can we share what decade this was? Ollie, was it the 70s that you were doing?
Good one.
I was going to say too, mate, maybe, and I want to ask you about, you said you basically spent 12 months just applying. Perhaps you shouldn't have been putting your own photo on the application, mate.
Perhaps, yeah, it would have been. I probably would have needed like a Tom Cruise photo or a Brad Pitt maybe in those days. Maybe that might have helped.
I probably wasn't old enough for you to put my photo on there, but anyway.
Yeah, no.
But what do you think it was, mate? Like that 12 months, how come it was so hard to get an apprenticeship when you were looking? Surely there must have been some around, or what do you think was going on?
There was certainly some around. I think there was I think it was just the same problem as you have now. There's X amount of jobs and there's X amount of people that need them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And I remember even outside of that, one of my other dreams, which I'll never fulfill now and probably well gone anyway, I don't really want to, was to be a firefighter.
Oh, wow.
But
you got the guns for it, mate.
I wouldn't say that. But that's one job in New South Wales that's really, really hard. Like they'll put out a recruitment drive, and they might have 300 positions New South Wales wide open, and they'll get like 10,000 applications for it. And it's just you don't. I applied twice for that and never even got a phone call. Nothing.
Wow.
And I mean, back in those days, when you applied for those jobs, you literally wrote out a letter and posted it.
Yeah.
With the applicant, because the ad was in the newspaper and it had, please send your resume to PO Box blah 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 blah. That's how you applied for jobs. There's no email or internet or anything like that. No,
You're
clicking
really
an ad
showing
on
your
Facebook.
age now.
Back when people wrote letters, mate. Jeez.
Pretty much, yeah. You had a resume. You walked into a mechanic shop and you walked into the office and you threw your resume down in front of them and said, "Have you got any apprenticeships going?"
Yeah. Nowadays, they won't even take one if you walk in somewhere. They won't take your resume.
So after email.
No, yeah, that's right. But I think kids these days they're just they'd rather than getting up off their ass and going and walking around to say all the construction sites. It's just too easy for them to sit there and wait for a job to roll around on Facebook and then go, or put an ad on Facebook. I'm looking for an apprenticeship. I mean, that works too, but you got to show some effort. And I'd employ somebody that turned up on my building site with a tool belt on and a resume in their hand would almost get a trial right there and then. Whether I was even looking.
Yeah.
I'm interested to delve into this a little bit because I, like you, feel that apprenticeships have gone backwards and our poor kids aren't coming out with the skill set that they really require to be successful in their own businesses later on, because they're all going to go off and be subcontractors or
of course they are.
Move on at some point. And my point is, and I see it through the judging with the HIA, and you're talking to the apprentices there and they've had 6 employers in 3 years.
Yep.
And, they're really confused and they're feeling quite unsure. They know they've got some good skills, but they're not sure if they're being taught enough. Or I see it when we employ people and these, I'll call them kids again because I am old, but I'm thinking, sort of in their 20s, they don't have the skill set that somebody like you has or that the builder has with those finer points of the trade because they're just not being taught that. Or they're being sent out with a framing gang and all they do for all of their apprenticeship is framing, and yet
100%.
somebody still signs them off and says that they're a carpenter.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then they and for me, I then put the ad in the paper for a carpenter and you get a carpenter turn up and part of the trials go and hang this door.
Yeah.
And they've got no idea. They can't check in a latch. They can't, check in hinges. They can't cut and fit arc. They can't scribe a skirting board because, they did it for 2 days at college in their 3rd year.
Yeah.
To tick some boxes. But on site every day, they haven't done it because, like you say, they've done is framing. Or then you get the other ones that the form workers.
Yes.
Concrete form workers. I mean, they're carpenters.
Yeah.
By the book, they've got a certificate 3 in carpentry.
Yep.
I can give you the heads up that that's changing.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think it needs to. I think it needs to for the or just make it a separate trade.
I believe that's the change that's coming.
Yeah, because it's no disrespect to them, and they're very good at what they do, and if that's what they want to do, then that's great. But if they then want to step over into residential side or whether it is framing or anything, it's pretty hard to make that step.
It's exactly right. By the same token, it's a disservice to them to come out and think that they're carpenters without the skill set that they need. Yeah, a couple of days in college working on something doesn't mean that you have the skill set to do it on the job.
No, you've got to do it every single day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it gets into that whole specialization versus general practitioner that exists in every industry, really. I've seen it through sales, marketing, accounting and finance, financial planning, all the fields that I've been in over the last 20 plus years. And it's interesting that you have a maintenance business, Ollie, because I would look at you and think, well, you're a generalist, right?
Yep.
And a lot of people argue that, well, we need specialists and specialization is better, niching is better. My personal opinion, listeners, and this is obviously not a categoric, this is correct, but my opinion is that we're losing a lot of that generalist capability amongst the trades, and certainly just in the human race in general. I think, there's people that can't even drive a manual car, which, whatever, if you want to drive an auto, that's fine, but it's the loss of those broad skills that I think affects the way people work as employees and whether they can run a business, whether they can learn new things. Do you find that's true for you, mate, with the people you see through the business and the other trades that you work with, maybe being hamstrung by the fact they can't figure other things out?
Yeah, totally. Like, just employing staff again in the last, 6 months, 8 months sort of thing, whatever it's been, is, sort of made me realise how broad my skills actually really are. I've sort of just gone along doing what I do every day thinking, I don't know much about this or don't know much about that. But now that I've got other people to compare it to, it's like, wow, I actually do know a fair bit about this, because I'm now teaching them who, they're carpenters, but I'm teaching them things. So sometimes I scratch my head and think, how come you don't know that? But it's, they've just never been exposed to it.
That's right.
So yeah, I think you're right. There's certainly, I guess, from a business perspective, it's good to specialise because you can really nail down on, a thing. You can have your systems in place for just doing one thing, and you can probably get a good flow. One problem with it I see is if the work dries up for that one thing, then your business stops. So whereas with what we do, we go through runs of things like, for the last few weeks, we just seen every phone call has been doors. New front doors, new back doors. We've done 2 houses which have been full doors all throughout houses. Every phone call, and then that'll just stop, and then we'll get a heap of patch and paint type work, or a few little cabinet type work, and it just sort of runs in stages, but we never sort of dry up completely, which is why I've sort of kept it a bit wider in the scope.
So with that broader maybe capability, or to me it seems often more like a willingness to have a go at figuring something out. It's if you're not overly specialized, then I think people tend to have that attitude of, okay, well, I haven't done that before, and I've done a bunch of other stuff that I've never done before, so I reckon I can probably work it out. Have you found that carry over to business ownership at all, Ollie?
Yeah, it had to. It had to. And that's probably where I'm at now in the business, with having staff, and now just having to look at all the running of the business type stuff that I've never had to sort of do, even when what do you say, in brackets, work for yourself as a subcontractor or whatever, you're not really, it's really just a job, and you're just keeping yourself in a job. But when you start getting things like staff and, new vans, and you've got a business premises and all this other stuff, all of a sudden it's like, wow, I've got to really concentrate on the business side of things to keep all this stuff paid for. You got to keep paying your staff, so you got to keep work coming in. So you're diving into marketing and other avenues to try and bring work in, looking after clients. you got to babysit staff sometimes. You've got to, make sure the clients are happy with the staff that you sent there. And, there's a whole heap of, just a whole heap of other stuff that you've got to, just dive into and you've never done before. Things, going to sit down with an accountant is, you probably never really do. Even working for yourself, you, as a subby, you sort of just, you send in your MIB file or your receipts and that's it. And you get your taxing back of how much you got to pay the government, and that's it. But when you start growing and everything, you got to start looking at other ways to manage your business a bit. And it requires going in and having that boring conversation with your accountant that you're sitting there going, what the hell is this bloke even talking about?
Don't worry, if you talk about how to hang a door, he'll be scratching his head just as hard.
Yeah, see, that's exactly right. That's exactly right, and there is a heap, and that's why we're busy, because there is a heap of people out there that don't know what we do. So, and to them it's six screws into a hinge, and then you screw the hinge to a door frame, and that's it. The door's hung. It's like 15 minutes work. But the reality is like accounting or any other business, there's way more to it than that.
Of course there is.
Yep.
Was it a big transition for you, Ollie, to go from just looking after yourself and then taking on the team and setting some of these business systems in place that you're talking about?
I think like it's a work in progress, as it still is. Like, I think it's just you're always halfway doing through something. I've got stuff everywhere in the office that you got, things that you're always constantly trying to think of things to just make it, smoother for everyone, and you want to keep your staff happy as well. So I want to make it as easy for them as well. So it's there's always something to do, always something changing.
Ollie, what do you like most about business, mate?
That's a good question, Ross. I don't know. I think for me, it's probably just being responsible to myself. You know what I mean? Like, I guess even at a very young age, I actually always wanted to work for myself and have my own business. And then eventually the opportunity arose for that to happen. And I guess it was just more of being in control of my own future. And you can get that working for someone as well, to a degree, just with your financial side of things and home life and stuff like that. But I think, just being in control of your own destiny, I guess.
So, mate, how has reality lived up to the expectations? The meme, like, what my mum thinks I do, what really happens. What's reality like compared to what you thought it was going to be?
Freaking hard. So I guess as an employee, you look at your boss and you go, geez, look at all the money this bloke's making. He walks into the office at 9 o'clock, he has a coffee, he tells us what to go and do, and then he goes home and at 2 o'clock and has a beer. How good's this? The reality is it's way much further past that than everyone thinks. So the first thing is he's probably actually not making that much money. And the second thing is he's probably taking calls at 5 a.m. and still up at 10 o'clock at night on the computer at home, doing stuff, whatever it is. So that's, it's a lot further from what you think it is, but, I guess it still does have its advantages.
Business ownership?
Definitely. Yeah, business ownership certainly has its advantages. Like I said, the buck stops with you, whether it's good or bad. And, you do have a little bit of freedom here and there depending on how you set your business up. So, like take for this afternoon, me and my wife are going to shoot off this afternoon and head away camping with the camper. So we're going to shoot off at about 1 o'clock today. So, you know, when you're working for someone, you don't sort of get that opportunity.
Mm.
And I just try and plan our business, and I can plan our work and plan the guys that allows me that they know what they're doing on the day I want to leave early. So I don't have to worry about them. I can just lock the factory up and go. Obviously, taking longer holidays is going to be a little bit different when you don't have staff. That can be a bit easier. You can just go, right, I'm not going to book any work in for that week, and you take a week off and you just close the door, and it is what it is. You know, you make up for it when you get back or before you go. With staff, that's going to be a little bit more challenging because they're going to have to know exactly what they're doing for a whole week. So anyway, we'll cross that bridge whenever we get to it.
When do you plan for it?
Yeah, well, we're not planning for any big trips. Most of our big trips are always overseas. So with the whole COVID, we won't be doing any overseas trips for a couple of years. So
You got a bit of time up your sleeve. I'm interested then, Ollie, when you reflect over your business journey so far, what do you wish you knew a whole lot longer ago than you found it out? You know, there's always those one or two nuggets that we find out deep into our journey, and we look back and we think, God, I wish I'd have known that, or I wish I had done that earlier in my business journey. It will make my life so much easier, or I now understand X, Y, Z.
Lots of things. Lots of things. Everything I know now, I wish I had have put in place back when I first left my employer, which was 2011. So I set the business up in 2008, did it part-time. So I was working weekends, you know, trying to kickstart the whole thing. And then 2011, mid-2011, I did the jump and jumped over and, you know, did what everybody does. You just grab your tools and your vehicle and a carbon copy invoice book and start going and doing jobs. That's how you sort of do things. But reality is, I probably should have searched for groups like Tradies in Business and stuff like that early and got, you know, I think learn about finance, learn about money, learn how to charge. I think the biggest problem is, you know, people go, well, my boss used to charge X amount an hour, so that's what I'm going to charge.
Yes.
But the reality is you need to sit down and work out what it costs you to run a business and what you need out of the business and how many hours you're really going to work a week and all of that sort of stuff. Like I've worked at, we pretty much average 5 to 6 billable hours a day. You know, so when you've got to sit down and work out what you need to cover that, even though you're paying your staff 8 hours a day. So it's, I guess for me, it's all of that sort of stuff that I wish I had have known years ago, and I'd be in a way better spot than what I am now.
Ollie, what about the headspace, the difference in mindset between that employee working for someone else, you know, the boss who rolls in with a coffee and buggers off home at 2 o'clock and you're there doing all the hard work, making him all the money, to where you sit now in the fancy chair with the helicopter parked out the back. How's the headspace changed for you?
Yeah, heaps. I mean, now I've got a chopper pilot to pay. like
Steel bill must be killing you, mate.
Seriously, you know, like, that's a lot of patch and paints. That's a lot of fists in plasterboard holes, a lot of doors. Right? So you've really got to be in a pretty big mind space for that. I think it's just like, for me at the start, it was just, now I'm working for myself. So there wasn't a huge, big mindset change. I think in fact, it probably got a little bit worse because, you know, when I was working for someone, I was the sort of guy, you know, you turned up early and you left when you had to leave, sort of thing. And then when I started working for myself, it was like, oh, I'm the boss now. I'll just start at 8:30 today, or I'll do this, or when you don't have staff or any sort of sometimes other motivation, you're just like, oh, I've got nothing booked in tomorrow, so I'll just do this job tomorrow instead. And rather than just getting in and getting it done. And I sort of fell into that a little bit. For me, my mindset changed when I decided to go and do my Certificate 4 in building and construction. And I don't know why. I didn't really want to get my builder's license, but I thought, maybe it's time to just sort of get a bit more further education. So enrolled in that in 2017 with Master Builders, and got halfway through that and started doing, things like the estimating modules and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, I'm doing a few things wrong here. Because, you're sitting in a classroom with basically a lot of other, guys that are doing it. They're all generally tradies, they're all qualified, but most of them are subbies just working for other builders or whatever, And whereas I sort of considered myself to have a business. So I wasn't working for builders or doing regular, I was working for private clients. And I was sitting there going through this going, man, what am I doing wrong here? I've been, all this time I've been running this business wrong. And that was probably my biggest change then, was I sort of sat and went, there's got to be help out there for people like me who is just a tradie and haven't had any experience in quoting, estimating, scheduling work, haven't had anybody train me into any of that sort of stuff. I just sort of jumped into the business and started doing it myself. I thought, there's got to be other tradies out there that are in the same boat, running their business the same as me and have, exactly the same as me. So I guess that's what started my journey then. Was I just, one night after class, I went home and punched into Facebook, because on Facebook, there's groups for everything. I mean, you could have the weirdest bloody interest, like whatever the weirdest.
What are some of yours, Ollie?
No, I know.
There's a rabbit hole. I'm a bit scared to go down.
Yeah, we're not going to go down
Let's
there.
keep it a family show, mate.
We won't keep that. But, there's whatever the weirdest thing you can think of, there'll be a group for it. And there'll be 150 other weird-ass people like you out there for it. So I went home, punched in Facebook, help for tradies or tradie help groups or whatever it was. And, a few groups came up, not yours actually, by the way. But anyway.
How long ago was this, mate?
2017.
Yeah, about 2017, 2018, something like that.
Yeah, we weren't running yet, right?
We had not yet been birthed.
Oh, there you go.
Not the group, anyway.
No.
We were
Group,
here, but not the group. Podcast's been going for longer than that.
Yeah, the podcast, yeah. So that's really, I guess, where my mindset really started to change. So I found, I don't know whether I can say the word on this podcast, but
Of course you can.
the host of another podcast is really cool too. Has another group, and I joined that group, and just my eyes just got opened.
Yeah.
G'day, Matt,
from
if
there-
you're listening to ours.
Yeah. Hello, Matt.
We love Matt. Matt's a good bloke.
Yeah. He's been on the show, actually. We've
Yes, and you've been on his too. I've listened to both of those. Yeah.
Yep.
So started listening to Matt's podcast, and then joined that group, and it just sort of blew me mind, I guess, from there. So then from there, I started, looking at project management systems and all this other stuff, and then I went and redesigned the website and really just started getting motivated. And then found you guys and your podcast and everything else, and it just sort of, that's where the ball just started going in my head. Meeting other tradies through those groups, So Jason, who's part of our group and part of that group, and been on here, me and Jason now meet up pretty much every Saturday morning for a coffee and a chat about our business. And just stuff like that is just awesome, second to none.
So, Ollie, you said getting into one of those groups, like it blew your mind, and then you started doing all these other things. What was it about joining the group though that was actually pivotal in all of that change?
Finding that, exactly what I thought. There's other people out there that are pretty much in the same boat as me.
Mm.
So there's a whole group. There's two groups. There's a whole two groups that I know of. There's probably more. But the two groups that I'm actively involved in is full of tradies that we're all in the same boat as me.
They're definitely the two best groups, I'd have to say.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Actually, I spend probably 80% of my Facebook time is now spent around business groups.
Mm.
There's so much to learn, and who would have thought Facebook would be a source of so much knowledge? But I think one of the best things something like Facebook has done for tradies in particular is allow us a safe space to talk about what we're going through, because trades don't talk. We don't share our information to the guy that's working next to us because he might steal it, run with it, and do a better job of it. We have a real scarcity mindset typically. Yep. However, in these groups, these big groups, the 1,600 now, I'm pretty sure there's close or similar in Matt's. Yep. There's lots of discussions around, well, I'm going through this. What do you recommend? Or what job management system do you use? Or I don't understand this. Have you had any experience in it? And you do feel less alone. You do understand that not everybody's kicking goals like it looks like from the outside they are, because we all like to show the highlight reel. So they're a great space for, I guess, validation and
100%.
learning.
Yep.
There's a lot of power in understanding that you're not alone. You're not the only one going through whatever that trouble is.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, sorry, I guess going back to that whole starting out scenario, Ollie, you said, you wished you knew a lot of the things now that you knew then, and that's a pretty standard answer. Yeah. But if you were, so your 18-year-old self, 17-year-old self turned up on your doorstep now, what advice would you have for the younger Ollie?
Back yourself. Pretty much. I guess. Yeah, I've probably lacked confidence through most of my life in a lot of things that I've done. But of late, due to certain, measurables and being able to measure that, now I'm probably a lot smarter than what I've ever thought I was. So it's, that's probably what I would do. Just get in and do it and don't give a shit about what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it?
If only we could really set that for our kids, right? If only we could, like, I know personally when I think about my 5 children, none of them are confident the way I would like them to be, despite me working very hard as a mum to give them as much confidence as I can. The world and its pressures takes that away. And wouldn't it be lovely? Like at 44, I feel more confident, more happy, more content, more of everything than I've ever felt in my life. I wish I had have had that at 20 or 21. It would have totally transformed my life.
Do you think that's possible though, without the lived experience?
No.
I think you get to that stage from experience and learning the hard way. If it's given to you on a silver platter, and let's face it, you look at a lot of kids these days, you don't learn the skills to get to that point, because you get that from experience. It's called life experience. We had that. We didn't have it when we were 16 because you hadn't lived life. That's by the time you get to 40 plus, it's you've lived that life.
Now, before we started today's podcast, Warwick did allude to the fact that this select maintenance is not the only thing that you do, Ollie. And I'm intrigued because I know nothing about your other venture. Would you like to share a bit about that with us?
So the other venture is the brainstorm of my wife, and it's sort of a part-time hobby business at the moment, but we would like to see it grow to be her to her business and give her a full-time job, because she currently still works full-time as well as doing our books in select maintenance. But essentially we make and sell dog treats. So
I had no idea.
We've got 2 dogs, and who obviously my wife likes to spoil.
What sort of dogs are they, Ollie?
Okay, we've got a Staffy cross, and we've got a Maltese Shih Tzu. So
that's an interesting pair.
Yeah.
2 completely different dogs.
Absolutely.
Not really a tradie dog, mate.
No, and ironically, the Maltese Shih Tzu loves spending time with me, and if I'm in the yard working, you have a look at my Facebook or Instagram, and you'll see photos of me building the deck in my backyard with her curled up in the grass between 2 joists. While I'm down there with the saws and whatever else. Whereas the Staffy, as soon as you get a tool out, he's running. He'll go and hide under the bed somewhere.
Oh, they're notoriously scaredy dogs.
Yeah. So it was born out of. You go to the average supermarket and have a look at where your average dog treats come from, and they pretty much all are imported. There is some Australian stuff out there, but most of it's imported. And if you do some research into what has to happen to dried meat and all that sort of stuff to come into the country, you would think twice about giving it to your dog. So we decided that we'd make our own. So we experimented with a few things and decided chicken was going to be the most cost effective to make and sell, and also the quickest, and the dogs love it. So we decided, you can go to pet shops and you can buy big thick chicken tenders, and you can get them everywhere for very cheap price. Where they come from, I've got no idea. But so we decided to do something different. So our chicken that we dehydrate it, but it's super thin. So we slice it at about 2 mil thick, 2.5 mil thick in a slicer, and then dehydrate it. So it's just, when it comes out, it's just like a chip, like a potato chip.
Chicken chips.
So
chicken chippies.
Chicken chip. That's exactly what it is. So it's the size of a chicken breast, though, so it's quite large. So we do that, and it's sort of kicking along quite nicely. Actually, that's where we're going this weekend. We're going to go and set up at our first market, actually. My wife wanted to go and do one of the markets out in the country. You'd know Rathdowney. So
yeah.
We're heading out to Rathdowney. We're going to take
it's going to be chilly, Ollie.
Yeah, it's going to be very chilly. But that's all right. We did Stanthorpe 2 weeks ago, so it won't be any chilly.
You'll be fine. You're seasoned.
Yeah. So we make the chicken ourselves completely from scratch and to the sale side of it. And then we have another range of treats which we buy wholesale and just essentially repackage it and sell that. But it's all Australian as well. So all of it's Australian. The chicken we make ourselves, which comes with, there's a lot of things that people don't realise is when you go to some of these markets and you see a dog treat stand or whatever, if they're making their chicken themselves and or handling any meat products themselves and then reselling it, in Queensland, they're supposed to have Safe Food Queensland food approval for the handling.
So like human consumption approval?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, for dog treats. That's right. So we have an inspection every single year.
Oh, gosh.
Where a Safe Food Queensland inspector comes to our home and inspects our procedures, how we handle the meat, how we store it, how we freeze it, what temperature. Everything's got to be recorded. It's dry weight. We've got to send 10 bags off for testing to make sure that it's dehydrated to the correct moisture content level.
Holy moly.
Yeah, so if you walk into a place where we sell our chicken dog treats, and this is just for the chicken dog treats, you can literally consume it yourself because it's made to human.
I've just worked out how to save money on my grocery bill.
I reckon.
And I can actually tell you, it actually tastes great because it literally is just chicken jerky. So if you eat beef jerky, it's the same thing, just chicken. It actually tastes really good, and as I'm packing it, I'll be eating it.
So Tradies in Business do not condone, endorse, or support the consumption of animal foods.
Correct.
Well, we all nibbled on pet food when we were a kid, didn't we?
Yeah, I used to
Gosh,
kibble.
Remember what were they called? Goodos?
Good eyes.
Goodos, yeah.
Oh man, they were tasty.
Oh,
yeah. Loved them.
One of the worst dog foods you could give your dog.
I bet.
Bone meal and all sorts of weird crap in those things.
Yeah. But so that's the other business that we do. So it's pretty full on. So between running this business, I'll leave here at 5 o'clock, go home, and I'll have 2 kilos of chicken that's sitting in the fridge, sort of in a semi sort of started to defrost state. But then I've got a slice, pack into a dehydrator, dehydrate, and then goes into containers, and then generally Lyndall will pack it the next day into bags. So yeah, that sort of happens pretty much most nights and weekends.
So, business question, mate. What lessons from Select Maintenance that you've learned have you been able to apply to the dog food business to speed things up or avoid, the same pitfalls?
Yeah. Systems and procedures. So everything.
Thank you, Ollie.
everything happened, and my wife's was great at this because of the whole Safe Food Queensland thing. We actually had to have this. So she's got a whole folder on everything that we have to do, how we've got to store the chicken, what temperatures it's got to be at, all of this sort of stuff has to be stored, recorded. So things like...
Sorry, mate.
Sorry?
I want to know why that's important. Like, why did you pick systems and procedures as the big learning?
Because it literally just does make everything quicker, and everything happens the same every time. So nothing gets missed. So take, for example, when we're dehydrating the chicken, we've got to record its wet weight as it goes into the machine, and then we've got to record the wet weight of certain pieces on different shelves in the machine, and then we've got to record all their dry weights. So rather than me having just a blank bit of paper trying to remember, which piece of chicken I've weighed and all this sort of crap, I had Lyndall make up a printout with it exactly where that piece of chicken is in the machine, and then I just do the same thing every time and just fill in the blanks. So and it just makes it easy, and Lyndall knows then exactly the information that she needs.
So really what we're talking about is tradie-proof systems. That's what it sounds like.
Pretty much.
Because if you can follow it, mate.
Exactly, mate. Yeah, exactly.
And you're just a lowly chopper pilot.
Pretty much. Yeah. That pretty much sums me up.
A door hanger.
A door hanger. That's it. A door hanger. Yeah. So yeah, it's
that's good.
it's pretty full on. It's hard work having the two businesses. Like take last night, got home last night. Lyndall didn't get home from work herself till 7 o'clock-ish, something like that. And we spent the next hour and a half packing the car with all the stuff we're going to need for this weekend for the market. So, but, it's also a camping trip as well. So we'll get out there this afternoon, we'll set up camp and we'll chill out for a day and a half before we go and do the market. So
doesn't sound terrible. And it is part of the reward for the sacrifice, I think, that comes with business ownership.
If you don't do it, it's not going to happen.
So true.
Yeah.
Nobody else is going to go and do it. Like you just can't. You just can't start this thing and then expect that it's just going to happen. You've got to put the hard work in.
So there's no magic pill. Is that what you're saying?
There's certainly no magic pill. There's no magic anything.
No.
Even you can join. Okay, so I'm a member of the trade desk. You can join that. You can get all the resources. You can download them all. You can print them all off. I've got 15 keys to running team meetings sitting here on the desk. Right? But if you can print it all off, but if that doesn't mean you've done it and it's going to happen.
No, it's like buying
just because it's
in the garage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no point buying an exercise bike and saying I'm going to get fit if you don't actually get on the frickin' thing. But it just doesn't work that way.
And yet, that's how so many of us approach so many things in life, Ollie.
I'm guilty of it.
I think we all are at times.
Everyone is with something.
Absolutely.
There's something in your life that you want to do, but you just don't get up and do it. And unless you do that, it's just not going to happen.
Is there an antidote to that, or a way to? Because we're all guilty of that. We buy the exercise bike and it gathers cobwebs. Is there a way to overcome that for business owners, especially?
I don't know whether there's a way to overcome. I think it's just in your mindset. You've just got to really want it. It's the same as giving up smoking.
Mm.
You know, if you're a smoker, I don't know whether anyone is a smoker or wants to give up smoking or whatever, but I'm an ex-smoker. My wife's an ex-smoker. You've just got to want to do it. Mm. If you don't want to give up, then you're never ever going to. So you can try, you can do this, but if in the back of your mind you don't really want to, then you're probably never going to.
Mm.
So you've just, and same with anything, you've just really got to want to do it enough that your body will just do it because your mind's telling you to.
Mm.
Well, you've probably just answered the question that I didn't ask, which is if you had 1,000 tradies in a room, what's one piece of advice you'd give them?
Just do it.
I was going to say, the answer
just
to this is swoosh.
Yeah, exactly. Or, okay, so I did sort of think about this a little bit. That question,
preparation.
Because I knew that you were going to ask it, because I've heard one or two podcasts in the past. But join some sort of group like this. So if you're listening to this podcast and you aren't in the Tradies in Business Facebook group or, Matt's group over at the Site Shed, if you're not in any of those groups, just join them because there is so much information out there that, there should, in this day and age, there shouldn't be a trade that's struggling. There's obviously economical things that, can affect that and everything else. But as far as running your business, there's so much information out there for people to gather and learn how to do things, even if it's just little things or little questions. And, you've only got to look at these groups to see that every day there's 10 new posts from different business owners in different trades. It doesn't necessarily have to be the construction trade. It can be any trade.
Mm.
And there's always someone that's asking something and learning something.
Mm.
So yeah, that's definitely my one thing. Get onto a trade group. If you're struggling, if you think that you're doing it alone, because you don't have to. There is no alone. Same as anything.
It's very true. We're not alone here at Tradies in Business, are we?
We're not alone.
We're surrounded by lots of friends.
We are.
Some
nice
with helicopters.
Yeah.
And mansions on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And mansions, yeah. That's Mitch. Mitch has got the mansion. Not
That's
me.
right, yeah.
I just have a helicopter.
You just fly in to visit him.
Yeah. Mitch with his gold paint garage floors.
And if you're listening to this and you have no idea what we're talking about, take Ollie's advice and join the group Tradies in Business, and you'll get an understanding. In actual fact, I think a lot of that banter happens in the trade desk, funnily enough, but our premium member site. So Ollie, future mate, what's the future hold for you and Mrs. Ollie?
I want to retire when I'm 55,
So next week.
Retire.
Is that next week? Or
Yeah, I think it's the week after. No, that gives me about 12 years to kick this business in the guts properly, and the goal is to have my wife not have to have a full-time job working for somebody else, especially. and to sort of just kick back a little bit more, have a business with great staff that can sort of run the business themselves, and I can just sort of float in and out and have a bit more leisure time. That's pretty much my end goal. And for me, I guess, geez, we could keep going about this, but this goes back to other tradies. Think about where you're going to be when you want to retire and what you're going to have. There's no point working your trade business until you're 65 and you've still got a tool belt on, and then realise you've got nothing still, because you haven't been running it right. You need to. You're not going to have super. The government's not going to give you money by that stage. So you need to think now. So you got to build your business to either make it that it will run without you, so you still got an income, or that some big ass group might come along and go, hey mate, you've got a great business, we're going to give you $3 million for it. You sell the thing and you kick back and retire, whatever. So yeah, that's probably our end goal.
Great, mate.
Yeah. So
It's been great having you on the show, Ollie. Thank you for joining us. Very interesting tale that you have. I hope you have a fantastic weekend out there in chilly town.
Rathdowney, yes.
Scraping the ice off the pop-up tent, mate.
Oh, I'm already sitting here shivering thinking about it, actually.
Lots of coffee.
No, we've got good sleeping bags. -12, they go well.
Wow.
Awesome.
I can't say I envy you, but you enjoy that.
Coxie can't even. She just can't even.
No, she can't get her head around it, right? I can see the confusion on her face.
Oh, look, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. No,
as you turn around, turning that heater up.
Yeah. With my nana rug on my lap.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, good on you. At least you got pants on.
Yeah, I do. Sorry about that, Warwick. Sometimes.
So, Ollie, here's your chance, mate. Plug one or both businesses. Where do people go to find out more about you guys?
Right, selectmaintenance.com.au and munchiesdogtreats.com.au. So head over to both of those. You can find Instagram, Facebook, all that sort of stuff. I sort of have a YouTube channel for Select Maintenance, but not really.
No how-to videos on how to hang a door, mate?
No, not yet. You search YouTube, there's plenty of those ones.
Bunnings has produced a few.
Yeah, Bunnings has produced a few. They're always great for me to go back and fix up later, those ones.
Absolutely. I was about to say they should come with your business card. This is your call when you can't do it.
Yeah, we get plenty of those. Yeah. Anyway, we could keep going on about that forever. So
we won't diss too much on Bunnings, just in case they sponsor the show one day.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Awesome, cool. Mate. Well, look, great chatting with you. Great to have you as part of our community too, Ollie. Always a pleasure seeing you roll up to our sessions and help out some of the other trades. And I think blokes like yourself are a really important part of the trades and of changing the face of the way young people come through in this country. Because as we've talked about with apprenticeships, it's maybe not as effective as it used to be for various reasons. And I think we need more leaders basically showing the young'uns how to make a decent go of it. So, because it can be a bloody good life as a tradie.
Absolutely. Oh, totally. 100%. Yep, for sure.
You can get your own chopper. So, mate, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Ollie.
Good on you, Waz. Thanks, Nick.
I'll keep an eye out for you in the skies.
Yeah, mate. No worries at all.
Thanks, Ollie.
Have a good one. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.